It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Derek has a question. He says, I'm 29 and I'm over the Money Guy income limit where 25%, that rule of saving 25% excludes the employer match. So you're kind of saying, all right, if you're making this much, you need to be saving 25%, not counting your match. But is that too conservative if my company has a 12% dollar for dollar match with no cap? So theoretically, he could be saving 37% counting the match or something like that. So how do you go about thinking through a circumstance like that?
Well, look, there's actually multiple things going on here, Bo, but just to kind of lay it out, he says he makes more money and by the way, let me give the guidance because I know what he's talking about is that I share all the time that I want you can count the employer match in your 20 to 25%, and really it's 25%. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I want you aspirationally saving and investing 25% of your gross income. And a lot of you will say, well, yeah, but do I get to count my employer? And I'm like, yes, as long as if you're a single individual, as long as your income's less than 100, but for households, it's 200,000 if you're married. And the reason I say that is, first of all, I think it's very nice if you actually get to count the employer if you're in an income that's in a situation where you'll be closer to that social safety net at retirement, and it lets you because there is a component of what your employer is paying you, count that. But for people who make really strong incomes, they have a big shovel, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you to build your own assets because the more you make, probably the more you spend. And you're going to reach this financial independence point when you hope you have a financial independence point, and you're going to start calculating what your expenses are. And if you've been making a great income all these years, more than likely, you got more expenses. And you're going to find out it's way more than what Social Security pays you and the social safety nets and of other things. And so you better have done a good job of saving. So I always tell people, if you make over those thresholds, don't count the employer match, because I want you to take the responsibility and make sure you're allocating, you're disciplining, you're investing that money. I think my rule still holds up, because if you have an employer that's giving you dollar for dollar match up to 12%, and even though you make over those two thresholds I just gave you, that is gravy. We are what we're basically, if you watch Fast and Furious, have you ever noticed when they're going to do something crazy, where they're going to jump over a continent or jump out of a skyscraper or do something like that? They always hit the NOS button and it shoots. You see, they give you a visual of the engine pumping and then they shoot that blue. I don't know if NOS is blue, but when they do the visual of it, it's always got that blue color and it dumps in there and it's like, woo, and it kicks up into a whole nother speed. That is what happens when your employer does 1 to 12% dollar. Because since the guidance I've given you is already going to have you aspiring to do 25%, you're going to get all of that 12%. Mm-hmm. You're going to gobble it up. You're going to push the button. And you're going to be able to jump right across, Evel Knievel style and land with a much graceful, more Robbie Knievel style.
I love it. I'm going to answer the question with just I'm just thinking logically here, right? If dollar for dollar, 12% employer match is ballin'. That is awesome. That's amazing. It's also not a certainty, right? There's no guarantee that your employer will always be able to do that. Here's what makes me nervous for someone like you. You say, okay, I'm going to save 13%. My employer puts in 12%. I'm hitting my 25. That gives me the freedom to go spend the rest of it. I'm going to go allow my lifestyle to creep up. Well, let's say at some point in the future, your employer decides to not do 12% or to cut that back. Well, now you have grown your lifestyle to a level where you got to take a step back to get back to your 25%. I just don't know that that's setting you up for long-term success. I think if you hit 25%, your employer's putting in 12%. I'm not good at public math. I think that's 37%. You are going to get to financial independence that much more quickly, which is going to open up the doors for you to make the decisions you want to make, not the decisions that you have to make. Higher income, I agree with you, Brian. I think that 12% from the employer is just gravy.
Yeah, it all comes back to, if you do this right, you're going to own your time even sooner. Financial independence, do what you want, when you want, how you want. That's a win.
Love it.